are a new kind of a venture fund that makes companies and invests in them. If there's something that comes before the seed stage of a company, that's what we do. And we're honored to have everybody here tonight. How many of you are here in this space for the first time? I turned off my mic, so it's not me. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. So that's great, because one of our goals is, this space is obviously the San Francisco headquarters.
We're being transported.
Yeah, apparently.
Of our sole investor, which is Bloomberg LP. And one of the things that Bloomberg cares about tremendously is culture and how that relates to the physical design of the space that we're in. So NBBJ, which suggested this event and is the designer of the new Samsung headquarters and worked on the Google headquarters, among other things, was discussed in a story that my colleague Peter Burrows wrote about the design of the new Apple headquarters in, when was that, March or April or something like that. And so the idea came up to invite all of you in for a discussion on the future of the design of technology workspaces and the role of analytics. We can only hope at our little Bloomberg beta that some of our companies should grow up one day to lead a headquarters that gets a beautiful model under Lucite. And Peter's been covering the technology industry for Business Week for more than 20 years. And so he's got long perspective on what that takes, and we will watch and learn. And so I'm honored to let Peter take it away. So thanks everybody for joining us.
All right, let's see. No feedback. Okay. So I thought we'd just start with a round of introductions. Let's see. No feedback. Okay. I thought we'd start with a round of introductions, but I'm sure the subject of telecommuting is going to come up as we talk. So, just in one word, boo or yay, did Marissa Meyer make the right decision?
Anytime I turn it on. So we'll let that ad start.
Oh, you're starting. I think, well, so this is probably going to be the opposite of what you would think I would say, but I think it's yes.
Get it.
I think in order to have a distributed workforce, you have to operate on that principle from the ground up. Everybody needs to be on that, like everybody needs to be work where you want to, when you want to be fully autonomous or not. And if you only have 10% of your workforce saying, okay, you're allowed to take special exception and work from home, they're going to miss out on stuff, like all of the communication channels of the company will be built on something that is not built for that, and so it's not going to be effective. So either, go big or go home.
Okay. Quick introduction.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Was I supposed to introduce myself at the beginning? I'm Scott Chacon. I'm from GitHub, co-founder, CIO. Should I do more?
Sure. I'm Maureen Lopez. I'm Executive Director of the Institute for the Future. We're a not-for-profit research consulting organization in Palo Alto. We've been around for 45 years. Do a lot of work on the future of work. So my answer to that is that I'm a strong believer that what you decide in terms of telecommuting and the kind of principles you set out have to fit your particular culture and your particular organization. This wouldn't work in our case, and in our case, people basically, we start with a permission culture, so you allow people to choose how they work and where they work, and as long as they produce and they work together, we don't care where they are. And a lot of times it ends up being that people come to work because it's an attractive place to be, and that's where the most interesting conversations happen. So you want to be in that flow. So it definitely wouldn't work in our culture, but it may well work at Yahoo, and it may well be necessary for Yahoo to be doing that. So it's very much dependent on the kind of organization and culture you're trying to foster.
Okay, I am Britt Celine. I'm the head of HR for a company called Cloudera. We are actually in the big data space. So this is talking near and dear to my heart. In terms of the Yahoo Marissa issue, I am yay for that. I think I've worked in companies that have been distributed, have gone distributed, have brought in distributed people to a more centralized organization. And it can work in lots of different ways, assuming that the communication is strong and that people know what they're supposed to be doing. I think based on the business results, I thought it was a really great but controversial move for her to bring people back in to really understand what people were doing, make sure people stay focused on what they're trying to deliver, and then you can make additional decisions about whether or not you want to go back to a more distributed culture or not. I think you can get, in very large companies, you can get into trouble quickly if you don't have good controls over how you do that.
Hi everybody, my name is Evan Wittenberg. I'm the Chief People Officer at Box, which is an enterprise content collaboration company, cloud-based collaboration on your content. We hire people who are collaborative, like our product, and it really matters to us. And I think in terms of the Yahoo decision, I don't know what problems they were trying to solve, so it depends on that. For us, at this scale that we're at, having people in the same space as much as possible is really important. I don't believe there's any kind of individual work that's done anymore. It's all connected, and the tax on working together, you know, to your point, if the systems and things aren't set up to help that happen, is pretty high. And so, at least at this point in our company's history, we're trying to keep people together as much as possible to kind of share the space, to have the innovations that happen when people bounce off each other. I have to assume, I mean, Marissa was following the Google model, I think, when she did that at Yahoo, and I have to assume that she analyzed the situation and decided it was the right thing for them. Certainly it's what we believed when I was at Google, and certainly what we believe at Box.
Hi, I'm Scott Wyatt. Before I introduce myself further, I just want to let people know who are standing up in the back. There are seats up here, and feel free to wander up when you get tired of standing. When you get tired of standing back there. Again, I'm Scott Wyatt. I'm with NBBJ. We're an international design firm, architecture, interior design, lighting, planning, etc. My life has been dedicated to corporate design, and so that's what I do. And the answer to your question, what I'm hearing is it depends, and I would agree with that. It really does depend, and you have to really understand what is the nature of the work, what the nature of the employees. There are specific answers. Companies tend to be unique even in the same businesses. So discovering what's unique about that and what those drivers are is, I think, where you find that answer.
Okay. All right, I'll have to work harder to get the controversy going. So I got interested in this topic because I started writing stories earlier this year about the building boom that's going on in Silicon Valley. I've covered the Valley for a long time, and facilities, I don't think I ever wrote about facilities because it was sort of the last thing that seemed to be defining which companies were successful or not. You know, it was, you had a garage or a dorm or whatever. And in fact, if there was an interesting phenomenon, it would be the campus curse, which would be the tendency for large companies to get very big and then immediately have problems. SGI built a beautiful sort of state-of-the-art kind of facility, Sun, where Britt used to work. So anyway, I just thought it was, very interesting to look at why then is Facebook and Apple and Google all building these very ambitious new headquarters now. Scott and I got to know each other in this process, and he told me a little bit about how big data is influencing how buildings are designed. So can we just talk a little bit about that? Set the table for how data has changed your business.
Well, what's changed for us is how much data there is, and importantly, how accessible it is, and how much easier it is to process it and make something meaningful out of it. So the tool is developed, and of course the information is there. What it means to our business is we're moving from a business that was about proof of concept to proof at concept. That we can start to develop proof of ideas before we get down the road into a very expensive business. We can model building performance, and I think the future is about modeling human performance and trying to connect everything from brain science to other behavioral issues and say, can we connect that data, that information, and really start to understand for the first time ever cause and effect at a very real level, at a very specific level.
So let's just stay on the topic of the model. I mean, how many of you saw the model of the new Samsung San Jose. So maybe talk about what are some features of that building that would be evidence of these new approaches and use together.
Some of the, and maybe an interesting conversation here is to also include the other half of the title of this, which is delight, or maybe the notion of intuition. What have we learned that might fit into a database, and what else do we know in another form? The issue for Samsung in pulling a lot of people together, like so many of our clients, particularly in tech businesses, is about innovation, about creativity, and how does one use the facility to enable creativity and more ideas more often. There's certainly a lot of evidence out there that people getting together and collaborating, and the ways that happen is a direct result in their success. And what you're dealing with is the physicality of having thousands of people that you're trying to get together and cross over serendipitously. A lot of that creativity is particularly difficult when you start going vertically. Out of sight is out of mind. If you're on a different floor from me, you might as well be in another county. And how do you break that? And the concept with the Samsung project is a donut-shaped building with a lot of glass on the inside. The building shades itself. We can go with clear glass. We can get them close enough. And then if you pull all your circulation to the inside of that donut on a daily, if not hourly basis, you are seeing people on the other floors. We're also pulling people outside. You're never more than one floor away from being outside. And that attractor of those outdoor terraces, every third floor, again starts to pull people. The visual connection, the ability to get outdoors in shared spaces that are outdoors, is starting to break that third dimension. The advantage of using the third dimension is you're actually a lot closer together. If you've got 2,000 or 3,000 people all on one plane, you're actually a long ways away, and it's actually much harder to see somebody that far away. So if you could really say, we're going to use the third dimension for 2,000 or 3,000 people that can see each other and connect with each other, actually a set of stairs is not very far away. And so that's sort of in a nutshell. If you just look at the form and say, why is it that form? It's around connecting people.
And yet we are also in this time of open source. A lot of the innovation that any company does happens elsewhere. We've got tools for communication that is not in person. So Marina, you've looked at a lot of this.
Yeah, I think the interesting stuff that's happening there, we're truly in an age where all of a sudden your workforce or who is doing tasks for you is not limited to your company. You have now platforms like ODesk, Mobile Works, all kinds of online platforms where all of a sudden you basically have a labor force available from anywhere around the world. We just did a large research project where for 3 days we engaged about 200 people from, we don't know where they came from, basically doing research for us, where we broke down the task into smaller tasks. We basically put it out there. We didn't care who volunteered to do the tasks. And we basically were in the process of judging what was done well or not. We didn't know who these people were. And that to me is really, we're going to have to work like that, because that's just, first of all, it enables really small companies. All of a sudden, we're a very small organization, 40, 50 people. But imagine that every one of my people also has access to that kind of research base and labor force. So it amplifies what we're capable of doing. And even if you're a large company, you're increasingly going to be dealing with smaller entities that all of a sudden can have that kind of scale and ability and access to these amazing people. And by the way, the best researcher, the best person, actually, she started out just doing kind of scanning, and then she ended up doing editing of other people's report. Turns out that she's a woman in the Philippines. I mean, who would have known, right? So this is a real, I think, game changer, this ability to access brains and brain power of people from anywhere and engage them in tasks as part of your extended organization.
Mhm.